Hi, and welcome to Getting Started with the Skype Web SDK. My name is Matthew Proctor, and I'll be teaching you the fundamental principles needed to take advantage of this new platform. Today we're going to learn about this new SDK, and see how easy it is to start developing with it. We'll look briefly at what the new SDK actually is, what platforms are supported, followed by a brief but easy to follow demonstration. The Skype Web SDK is a new set of JavaScript components and HTML controls that enable developers to build web experiences that seamlessly integrate a wide variety of real-time collaboration capabilities. Skype for Business is the unified communications platform previously known as Link. Whilst we refer to Skype for Business, all examples and capabilities are also supported in Link 2013. The Skype Developer Platform for Web, or the Skype Web SDK, is a new set of JavaScript components and HTML controls that enable you to build new web experiences that seamlessly integrate the functionality of Link and Skype for Business. You can build tailored experience for the web that integrate instant messaging, audio-video conferencing, presence and application sharing directly into your website or application. SDK was released to the public in early 2015 and is still being expanded. This course will teach you how to get started developing with the SDK. The Skype Web SDK is a client-side JavaScript library with no requirements for server-side modules. The library is provided on Microsoft's Global Content Delivery Network, or you can download it and host it within your own application. This is particularly useful for intranet applications that may not have direct internet access. SDK abstracts individual pieces of functionality into simple JavaScript methods, simplifying the process of developing applications. Being a native JavaScript library, it runs on any browser, not just Microsoft's own browsers, i.e. an Edge. As you'll see in the examples later in this course, it is remarkably easy to enable Skype features on a website or within an application. It's really as simple as adding a few lines of JavaScript code. So what can it actually do? The SDK lets you control the key functions of Skype for Business. The easiest to imagine is the ability to send and receive instant messages from your website or application. The SDK lets you programmatically manage your presence and location. Presence is the same as availability, such as being online, away, busy, and offline. Being able to manipulate and manage contact lists and groups is fundamental, especially for applications that enable collaboration, such as application sharing with one or more people or contacts. You can also initiate audio and video conferences from your website or application. Perhaps you have an intranet and want to be able to start up a conference with one of your team members or even a customer. This is easily achieved with the Skype Web SDK. But why are these useful? Let's look at 3 brief scenarios or use cases. The SDK can be used to build your own live chat application, enabling you to communicate with visitors and customers in real time with no additional licensing or software costs. Conferencing, both audio and video, can easily be added to your website. Imagine being able to open a Skype video call with your customers to help close that sale. You could also build an interactive application or game that engages your visitors via Skype. For example, I'm working on a port of the classic text adventure game Zork, which you can see on my website. So let's take a look at a demonstration of how to actually receive incoming messages. In this demonstration, we'll see how to create a history service object. We'll then build a listener object to listen for new incoming messages, and we'll see how to process new incoming messages, how to respond to those based on basic criteria, closing off the loop of inbound and outbound messages. The JavaScript file from the previous demonstration, sending instant messages, has been expanded upon. Let's take a look at some of those changes. Firstly, we've implemented a function bound to the historyservice.activityitems.addedHandler. Each time a new incoming or outgoing message is processed by the SDK, it is passed to the history service as an activity item which we looked at earlier. We'll capture the direction of this message, which is literally a string representing either its incoming or outgoing direction, and then output the name of the participant and the message itself. In our demonstration, we'll also show how to automate the sending of a message based on certain conditions. Here we're checking the text of the message for a specific keyword, and where it matches a fixed string, calling the chatService.sendMessage function to send a message. I'm sure you can guess from this what I'm trying to achieve. Further down within the same code block, I'm passing the direction of the message as a string, the sending participant's display name, and the message itself to a function called addChatMessage. Looking at the addChatMessage function itself, firstly I'll construct an image URL to display a small image representing the participant that has sent the message. By default, I'll assume it's the SDK, so we'll point the URL at the generic image we've used previously. We'll then use a string comparison on the display name, not overly elegant but it works, and update the image URL for Bob or Alla respectively depending on which participant sent the message. Next, we'll choose a style for our message box based on the directional string that was passed to the function. This will simply change the background color of the message text. Finally, we'll construct a string containing the divs required to lay out the message window. I'm using Bootstrap again to neatly lay out my columns, although you could use your own styling framework if you prefer. For this final demonstration, we're going to be looking at both sending and receiving instant messages, as well as how to process incoming messages automatically. We've already seen how messages can be sent using the chat service object, and receiving messages is really just an extension of this. Firstly, we'll authenticate using our existing credentials. As you saw in our updated HTML file, our layout has changed a little to make room for a chat window on the side, which will be used in a moment. Again, we'll start the chat service. And I've just added Bob. I'm now going to add Alla, but instead of accepting, I'm going to reject the invitation, just to show you how error handling works. Let's try this now. What I did was click on the Ignore dialog box. As you can see, the invitation was declined and the SDK returned an error gracefully. Let's add her in correctly this time. As you can see, we now have our three-way conversation started. So let's send an instant message to our two participants. The message has been sent, and we've added it to our nicely formatted chat window to the right. Let's check each remote client to make sure, and whilst we're checking, let's reply as well. Over to Bob, he received my message and now I'll get him to reply. Back to the browser and the reply has arrived. Now let's check Alla. Bob's reply has of course appeared here as well, as part of the conversation, so we'll get her to jump into the conversation as well. Back to the browser, and okay, my CSS isn't perfect here, but you get the idea. Now let's go back to Alla and see if our automated responder works. In our JavaScript code, we have an if statement looking for the word knock and configured to send a message if it sees it. So let's try it. And so as soon as Alla types knock knock, the SDK responds with who's there. This is the basis of an automated responder that can easily be built using the Skype Web SDK. So we've just seen how to use the SDK to send and receive instant messages in just a few lines of code. To learn more about the SDK, visit developer.skype.com. Microsoft are regularly updating the site with new code examples, references and projects. Of course, check Pluralsight regularly for updates and any new courses. I have a few tutorials and articles on my blog, and feel free to reach out with any questions or ideas you may have via email or Twitter.